All right. Hello. Welcome back to CFB Dynasty recap. This is week 2 recap. Heading into week 3, we got a lot to cover and we're getting right into it. First and foremost, final scores from week 2. Always got to show it. First, we've got Auburn and Coach Stevenson against ULM. And this one, you can tell Coach Stevenson, he struggled a little bit against a lesser opponent. He did wind up pulling away in the end. He does have a tough matchup against Coach Segura this week. I'm excited to see what happens with that game. Coach AJ taking it back 25 years and putting a beating on Lil Bro. Slick did eventually put up some points this week, though, which is a good sign. But Arkansas really puts a beating on Coach Slick. Miami now 0-2. I, however, found myself down 14-0 against Coach Veraco and the UNC Tar Heels. But things come together in the end. I pulled away. So you can see that there. Highest score this week. Next, we got a crazy fucking game to cover. Florida and Mizzou. I watched the entire broadcast. Coach Octor, he really fought and clawed his way back, and that even included recovering an onside kick with about 30 seconds left in the game. Eventually, though, he did wind up enduring another heartbreaking loss, sad to say. Great game, though. Great game. And this last one sucks, Their game eventually crashed, so I just wanted to mention quick. You guys just handle that however you'd like. Coach Weimer and Coach Segura determined it a forfeit, but, even in Florida, Mizzou, Coach Hess and Coach Octor experienced DC. They just loaded back up, fixed the score, and continued to play on. So it's however you want to do it. But next, everyone's favorite. We've got top 12 this week. And in this one, you can see Tony, it looks like he's on coach suggestions for some reason for running his defense. That's interesting. It's almost the end of the third quarter here. Looks like the coach suggestions play off for him. We got a batted ball, guy making a play, and that, I believe, was on fourth down. So great play by his defense. This one, number 11, still using coach suggestions. Coach Segura, really, really interesting. Looks like it turns out to be a 3-3 stack, and boom! Hit in the backfield. Hemingway's own rendition of Janavion Clowney ate him up in the backfield, left him with 3rd and 18. Got some extra baggage on the end here. Really wanting to show this replay in the top left. Great job. Next, number 10. This is just a classic here. It looks like Coach AJ's running an outside zone to the left of some sort. Winds up losing 3 yards, and he says, fuck it. It's time to sling it. And he goes, he's reading the defense up here pre-snap. He knows where he wants to go with it, and over the middle like that. He guns a dig route, man-to-man, just not working for Miami, and that's a house call. Next, we got number 9. Coach Veraco stuck in broadcast view here. I don't know what's going on. I don't believe he necessarily knows either. He's hitting buttons. What's happening? Turns out it actually doesn't matter. Hot routes turn into an interception for me. It's not a good look for Ayamueva here. That's not it. He ends up returning it for a pick 6. You might want to go back to broadcast. That ended up turning out pretty well. Number 8, blink and you'll miss it. Great user by Coach AJ there. Really jumping the route. He looked open. He said, nah, that's mine. This one is myself. You can see we've got live broadcast. This is Coach's cam here. This broadcast includes. You can hear me in the background excited about this one. That is a user tip drill pick. Speaking of tip drills, we got number 6. Ricky with the big fella getting under the ball there, snagging a tip drill for a big gain. Great play. This one, Kyle, Coach Stevenson, really interesting. Experiencing extreme luck against the computer. What's new? Gets absolutely blasted, coughs up the rock, but Fairweather's there, the only one paying attention. He's in for pay dirt. Number 4, we've back to South Carolina. They're only up 7 at this point. Coach Segura immediately audibles into 4 verts. Really interesting. Slings it down the sideline to, you guessed it, Nick Harbor. He just does the rest. Breaks a couple tackles, and no one's catching him. Number 3, back to Arkansas in Miami here. Looks like he's choosing play action deep outs, which seems to be a pretty good play here. I like the routes. He's doing some pre-snap magic. What he's going to do here is really interesting. Fakes the handoff, and he just loops around. And, I mean, look at how fast this guy is. This Taylon Green guy just absolutely rips it and scores. Great play. Number 2, we got a favorite 2-for-1 here. Coach Segura basically just tells his QB, hey, throw it over the middle here. Josh Simon ends up making a play with a diving catch, but what happens next is even better. You'll see him select this play there. This is really interesting here. Great throw, great catch, slot receiver, little fade back there to the corner of the end zone, drops it in a bucket. Great throw. And lastly, I mean, I had to do this. You'll see in the replay here, Michael's very own, Coach Veracco's very own Gronk on his team. Guy was unstoppable, but regardless, he goes with a halfback toss here to the right. Jukes a couple people, made me miss, but gave him the boomstick. You'll hear me say it, boomstick. That one felt good, but this is another 2-for-1 situation. You'll see me scanning plays, and I'll eventually say here, you're getting double my voice, but I'll eventually say I like this play coming up, and you'll see why. I like this play right here, and I hope it works. This is a good play.
Dude, it's almost bad to keep fucking breaking tackles, because I feel like that shit always happens.
Rolling out to the right, just dropping it in there for a nice tutty. I told you I like that play. I like that play a lot. Told you I like that play a lot, baby. I'll keep saying it over and over. But you know what we got next? That's the stats. We're going to roll through. I want to point this out because Jarquez Hunter, again, he's a running back. He's got 8 receptions, over 100 yards again this week. That just tells me Kyle, Coach Stevenson, his whole game plan, hand the ball off and throw screens to this guy. Just watch out for the running back. You shut down the run, Kyle is done. That's what I like to say. Next, we got Arkansas, who had a massive game here. First is Jaquindon Jackson. You'll see him there all the way over to the right, 86 overall, number 22. He had 16 carries for 122 yards, 7.6 average, and 2 touchdowns. But Taylon Green also, he's all the way out to the left there. 3 runs for 44 yards. We saw in the highlights there. He did rip one. That's 2 touchdowns on the ground. He does a great job in the air as well. 297 total passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. What's really interesting here is 83% completion percentage, 20 for 24. That's hard to do. In the middle there is Isaiah Sategna. Don't know if I'm saying that right, but 5 catches, 146. He deserves me to announce his name right. I'll try to get it right next time. 2 touchdowns, 146. Big game. Next is Miami. I got to highlight a couple things here. First thing that sticks out to me for Coach Slick and why I put him on the board this week, he is spreading the ball around. 4 receivers, decent yardage for each one of them. Really passing the ball around and sharing the rock. But what's interesting here as well is Jack Coldiron, interesting name, has 1 drop. If he didn't have that drop, I imagine he surpasses 3 digits. So really looking forward to Slick progressing his offense more and more and doing something about those showers where there's no running water. Next is Tennessee. I got to cover a defensive player again. This guy is a maniac, 95 overall. He had 9 tackles, 8 of them were for losses, and he had 5.5 sacks. And you'll see a little bit more about this guy in a second here. But before we talk more about him, I got to cover the offense. 429 yards, 8 touchdowns. And I was only 16 for 27, which isn't the greatest, but I'll take a game like that any day of the week. For my receivers, you got this guy, Holden Stace. I don't even know if I've thrown the ball to him once before this game. He had 6 catches, over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then Dante Thornton Jr. was right behind him, 7 catches, 163, and 4 touchdowns. You'll see my national players of the week. I'm going to cover these two if we've got them. James Pierce Jr., just talked about him. Also talked about this receiver as well, who had 4 touchdowns. Great game. Next is UNC. I already mentioned him. You saw him hurdle one of my players in the highlights. Bryson Nesbitt. This guy is a psychopath. He is the best player on this team. I couldn't stop him. I didn't know how. He demolished everybody. Gronk, I like to call him. He is UNC's very own Gronk. Be aware of this guy. Secondly, Omarion Hampton. He's disgusting as well. 93 overall. He had 15 carries, and he had 9 catches as well. Looks like all-purpose yards for quick math is 193. 193 all-purpose yards. 1 touchdown. He was really making plays. Next is Florida. This is a crazy game for Coach Octor and his offense. DJ Lagway, 540 yards. That's a lot of yardage. I think that might surpass the record for our dynasty. Have to double check on that one. 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. Really throwing it around the yard. And this is also crazy. Chamir Dyke. This guy had 13 catches. Holy shit. 251, 3 touchdowns. That's also an insane game. Wasn't quite enough against Mizzou, though. Luther Burden III, we talked about him several times. Got to get him involved. Coach Hess knew from the very beginning he's got to get this guy the ball. 3 catches, 167, 2 touchdowns, and Brady Cook had an insane game as well. When I first saw these, I was like, but no, wait. 307 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick on only 10 completions and 14 attempts for the entire game. I also want to point something out because this is interesting. I don't know if you saw this yet. There was a new update. With that new update, they upgraded or updated rather the badges that you see under your players. So any platinum badge now shows up as pink. So Brady Cook has got 4 platinum badges, and Luther Burden has 1, and it's Takeoff, which is probably the most important one. Really interesting here. But duo of the week this week now. It may seem a little controversial, commissioner being a little biased, but let me explain myself. Aya Maleva here had a great game, 8 touchdowns. Okay, it doesn't beat DJ Lagway in any other characteristic or criteria, rather, under the QB sort of gunslinging mentality that I like to see. But Florida lost. So it really should have been their quarterback, DJ Lagway, and that receiver, that Dyke guy. What a name. Wouldn't forget that in a million years. But for me, it's both sides of the ball. James Pierce Jr. had a crazy game, and then, I mean, like I mentioned, Nico had 8 touchdowns, and I won handedly. So I had to give it to myself. Sorry. Deal with it. I'm going to cover the 2024 Heisman Trophy presented by Nissan as well. James Pierce Jr. is now in the lead for the Heisman Trophy. If I win it with this right end, that would be legendary. My goal here is to have all of us within the top 5. Upcoming matchups before we wrap this thing up. Miami of Ohio going to Gainesville, Florida. Both looking for their first win. Now, as an alumni of Miami, Ohio, I will say we used to always throw around the phrase that Miami of Ohio was a university well before Florida was even a state. That is a fact. And Slick's really got to represent here for the Red Hawks. Ross, Coach Octor looking for his first win and not losing in heartbreaking fashion is probably more important, more of a priority than winning. But what do I know? That's going to be a good game. We'll see. Next, Auburn slowly moving up the coaches poll to 19. They're 2-0. Coach Segura, South Carolina, also 2-0. This will be a great game. I mentioned it before. Scouting report. Stop the run. Kyle is done. Watch out for it. Next is Arkansas versus UNC. This will also be a great game. Both teams 1-1. This is a night game in Chapel Hill. Excited to see what happens here. I saw at the end of our game, Coach Veracco put in his second string QB who had some wheels. So be careful. Then lastly, UCLA versus Mizzou. Coach Waymer 1-1 going against Coach S, ranked 18th, 1-1 home game for Mizzou, and we'll see what happens there. Thanks for tuning in. Best of luck.